Welcome to another video on 45 Bravo air guns. I had a couple of questions from some viewers that were asking what's the difference between the 22 or between the Airacuda Standard and the Airacuda Max. So today we're going to cover that just in a quick overview. Obviously, the Airacuda Max is regulated and has two gauges. It also has a stock that has an adjustable cheek piece and a pistol grip and holes cut out for the gauges. There is enough room in here and enough meat on the stock to add a couple of screws to hold a Picatinny rail in place for a bipod. Airacuda Standard has more traditional style stock. It also has a cutout in it to cover the power adjuster that is on there we'll cover in a moment. Its front end of the stock is a lot thinner. There's still probably 3/16, maybe a quarter of an inch here. That gets progressively 3/16 to a quarter inch at this part. That gets progressively thicker as you get further back. That will allow you to add a bipod in this area here if you would like to also. It has one cutout. They both are attached with a 5mm Allen screw. The Airacuda Standard uses a shorter screw, whereas the Airacuda Max uses a longer screw because of the standoffs for the gauges and the thicker part of the stock. Standard does not have a standoff for the gauges, so it does not use one. Now, magazines are the same, even though one is 22 caliber and one is 25 caliber. The dimensions are the same externally. They stack and they match up right. Size differences the holes. Airacuda Standard magazines can use in the Max. Airacuda Max calibers magazines can be used in the Standard as long as they are the same caliber. Obviously, trigger mechanism looks a lot alike. The breech system looks a lot alike, but it is different on the Standard. Cocking levers, I'm not 100% sure, are possibly the same. I can say that the hammer adjustments on both of them are located in the same place. And the trigger adjustments are the same. While we're at it, these guns are degassed. I'm going to be changing seals on these. The easy way to remove a tube on the Max, well, we'll go to that in a moment. Also, Airacuda Standard uses a steel tube, and the Airacuda Max uses an aluminum tube that is not ferrous. The magazine tube on the two guns, I think, are aluminum, but I think the magazine's being attracted to the steel barrel underneath. The part that holds where the barrel threads into this retainer that goes into the stock is steel. The easy way to get the tube off on one of these, but let's go to that in a minute. Keep repeating myself. They do share the same style Foster fitting. And cover. Airacuda Standard just uses a regular fill cap, or a regular cover here. That gives you access to a cover here that holds the baffle stack against the barrel. That can be accessed from the front using a set of hemostats. I covered that in the previous video. Airacuda Max comes with a 1/2x20 threaded adapter for your choice of moderator, suppressor, whatever you wish to call it. These can be interchanged. This part can be ordered separately from the JTS website, if I remember correctly. Barrel bands seem to be the same. The gauges seem to be the same. To remove the tube, if you have to perform maintenance on the tube, make sure the gun is degassed. Remove the barrel band with this 2.5mm Allen wrench. And then you would want to take out these 4 large screws and loosen this screw right here. That will allow you to slide this forward. Under here will be an O-ring that goes between your valve and your transfer port. Your valve is right here. Your regulator is right here. This is your regulated gauge. This is your main pressure gauge. Here is your regulated pressure gauge. The regulator sits here. This shows the high pressure side. This shows the low pressure side. Once this is off, you can now unscrew this part without having to fight the shroud. So like I said, you undo those screws, pull this forward about 1/4 inch, comes out, do what you have to do, change O-rings, whatever you need to do, put it back in, make sure that that O-ring is there for your transfer port. They both use a similar bolt. There is an O-ring inside the thimble here that seals on this type of a bolt probe. I've heard reports of some people saying their guns cock and fire as they try to decock the guns. This is a pre-production gun. I do not know if they've made changes or something, or if some guns are just possibly out of adjustment. I don't know. Press and hold the trigger all the way rearward. Comes forward, decock. This gun does not fire. So if you hold it, everything's there. If you take it back and go it does fire. This is your bleed screw. This is a small set screw that can keep the hammer from coming too far forward. Trigger adjustment screws are there and there. Like I said, they share the same trigger. Inside the valve is a valve adjustment screw that you can control the preload of the valve spring. Just like this spring here, this one here, before you make any adjustments, measure how deep this is so you have a baseline to start from in case you get your tune too far out of whack. Same with this one. Anytime you go to adjust the spring preloads, measure with a caliper that tells you how deep something is so you have a known starting point. Now, shifting from the Airacuda Standard to the Airacuda Max to the Airacuda Standard. Airacuda Standard works the same way, uses the same style bolt system. Trying to decock it, ease it forward, does not fire. 5-position adjustment. Remove that Allen screw with that 2.5mm Allen screw. Under this is a small ball and spring detent. Make sure you do not lose them. This tube does not come off the same way as the other one because this tube is cut out for this power adjuster that changes position as you change your power levels. This has to come off before it can. You have to take this part off and out of here. There's 2 O-rings on either side of this transfer port, and you slide this out, and now you can undo these 4 screws and loosen that one and slide this forward. But before you take this off, you have to take this off. But on the Standard, the pressure gauge is mounted to the valve block, not the tube. So once you undo your barrel band, you can unscrew this tube and have access to your valve adjustments. You do not have to remove the valve assembly or fight with the gauges hitting the shroud if you use this on this model. Other than that, the new production guns have 2 set screws here that control where the thimble is placed and keeps it oriented so your transfer port is oriented. Same with this Airacuda Max is the same way. It has 2 set screws in there. This being a pre-production gun does not have those. Some things were changed. Other than that, like I said, there's just about the same, not a whole lot of difference. Both use the same trigger mechanism, both use a similar hammer mechanism, cocking mechanism, style of breeches. The magazines will interchange between the two in the same calibers. One uses a steel tube, one uses an aluminum tube. One is regulated, one is not. Both of them adjust the same way. Both of them use the same barrels. Both of them use the same moderator baffle arrangement. And the Airacuda Max has a removable 1/2x20 thread protector so you can mount a moderator. Other than that, the adjustments work the same, and the exploded part diagrams are on the JTS website. Thank you. Have a good evening. Also, I did not include the JTS Standard has a smaller diameter tube than the JTS Max does. Max uses a larger diameter tube, where the Standard uses a smaller diameter tube.